everybody. Welcome to Rock and Roll Shin-Soo Choo. My name is Gabe Estel. I'm here with my co-hosts Dennis Levi Leach and Jonathan Getz. How's it going, guys?
Good.
Going good.
Well,
Awesome.
we made it to episode 25.
Yes.
Congratulations.
The Silver Slugger anniversary.
That's right. That's right. So we've got a good show lined up for you tonight. We're going to talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony that just happened, I believe it was earlier this week. And then we've got sort of our spin on it. Obviously, who should and should not be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is kind of an old debate. The same names kind of come up every year over these last few years. So we're not really going to get into that as much as people that we really value, that we think embody kind of a lot of the qualities that this podcast discusses, as well as they're badass bands that deserve the recognition. So we're going to put them in the equivalent of the Shin-Soo Choo Hall of Fame. We're calling it the Shoo-Ins. Okay, so this is the inaugural class of Shoo-Ins. We're going to have 3 nominees for you tonight. All bands that we've talked about and plugged on the show. They're all veteran bands. I will give everybody that. So let's go ahead and get started, though. When we last recorded, the baseball season was really, I think it was just getting underway, or it just about to launch. Well, now it has launched, and the Kansas City Royals seem to be kind of one of the teams to beat. So, Jonathan, obviously, I assume you're pretty excited about how the Royals have played so far.
Yeah, obviously surpassing the dimmed expectations of all of the prognosticators.
They obviously didn't let that get to them.
Right.
Not so far, at least.
Not only are they the team to beat, they're also the team to bean, it seems like.
Yeah, right.
As they've been, I think, the second most plunked team in baseball.
Wow.
So the offense started off pretty hot. It's since the Twins kind of had their way with them. The Twins pitching did and tempered that a bit, but overall, yeah, you can't complain with being on top of the Central Division there with the Tigers at this point,
who have also started off very strong as well.
Yeah, very.
Looks like, what do we got here? Oh, we got a tie ball game right now between the White Sox and the Royals, top of the 8th. So, and then, for the Chicago teams, the White Sox have been off to a pretty uneven start so far. As of this recording, they're 6-8, and there's certainly been some offensive firepower. Jose Abreu, as expected, is really just tearing the leather off the ball right now, as well as Melky Cabrera is off to a good start too. Levi, on the other side of town, obviously the biggest story, I think, is the arrival, I should say, of Chris Bryant last week, as well as another arrival now of Addison Russell too.
Yeah.
So what do you make of the first 2 weeks of the first about 15 games of the season or so?
I think the Cubs are playing above even high expectations. I mean, I think a lot of people didn't think they might have gelled as a team this quick, but
Right.
It seems like Joe Madden has set just such an awesome tone in the clubhouse that everybody's pulling for each other, and you can see when guys are up to bat, other guys are all on the rail, rooting them on, and it's a cool feeling to see that. Yep. And the statisticians will have to check this, but I'm almost positive the Cubs haven't lost more than one game by more than one run.
Okay, yeah, they've been close. They were close last night in Pittsburgh.
I'm almost positive. There's only one that I can recall where they lost by more than one run.
Right.
And so that means that you're fighting it out, you're scrapping it out. And some of those are wins. Today was a win or a loss where they lost by a run, and it was a late loss where the bullpen lost it. But some of those have been, where they almost came back and won in the 8th or 9th inning, but then ended up losing by a run.
Yeah.
So they're scrapping, and that's cool,
that division, the NL Central, is, as I think a lot of people predicted, already close. It's the Cardinals only have a 2.5 game lead. Yeah. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh are just a half a game behind the Cubs. So that's going to be, and then you have Milwaukee starting off really. Milwaukee looks pretty bad so far.
Oh, yeah.
3-13.
Oh, yeah.
So, and in the American League Central, I already mentioned Detroit and Kansas City really. Probably the two best teams in the American League. Well, definitely the two best teams in the American League so far.
I don't know the other stat, but Anthony Rizzo may have been beamed as many times as the entire Kansas City Royals team.
Right.
I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I think it's up to like 5 or 6.
Yeah. Well, the Royals have been beamed in 18 or 19 times now, I think.
Oh my God, that's outrageous.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that high.
They've got a target on their backs this season. That'll
quite literally, apparently.
Segue into the next topic. Last week, really kind of all started when the A's were visiting the Royals. Brett Lowry did a spikes up slide into Alcides Escobar. Hurt him, took him out of the game, and then just sort of it all kind of spiraled out of control over the next 2 days. Really kind of culminating with Herrera, right? I believe throwing
Herrera
behind Lowry
at about 100 miles an hour.
At about 100 miles per hour, and also pointing at his head too. So it's kind of the sort of two wrongs don't make a right thing in my eyes. But Jonathan, how are people reacting to all this in Kansas City? Do you really hate the A's this much?
Well, I think more people are now reacting to the way that Lowry is reacting, and Lowry won't let it go. He's started to point the finger at the Royals fans for instigating it. And so what happened, though, it was interesting. He claims it wasn't dirty at all, but he just didn't have a concept of what was going on, apparently, because he was running to second on a ground ball that he was, when you slide hard into second, you're trying to break up a double play. But what had happened was the ball took a weird hop that the Royals were conceding just to get the one out at second base. And so Escobar was preparing to catch the ball as if he were a first baseman. He wasn't going to try to turn it. He was in no position to turn a double play. And so he was exposing himself as a result. His whole leg was exposed to Lowry, who came in and, took out his knee. That was easily 1.5 feet on the left side of second base. And so it was Lowry not being real cognizant of what the situation was, that they had conceded the double play. It wasn't going to happen. And meanwhile, he went up there, like you said, spikes up and took him out and knocked him out for a couple games. But they were really fortunate it wasn't, a bad tear of a ligament or something.
Yeah, I mean, you watch the thing and it's hard to it's. How could you say it isn't intentional? It
was definitely intentional, and it was just so absent-minded and dumb, and the fact that he doesn't own up to it is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. Right. Herrera throwing behind him, particularly when you involve a guy's head, I don't know if that's necessarily the best way to respond, but I guess passions are running high.
The only thing you could do worse after pointing at the head is the Dikembe,
Herrera claimed that him pointing at his head, he wasn't saying the next time it's in your ear, but he was saying something else, but who really knows? Like you said, emotions run pretty high, and it gets pretty irrational out there. It's a different world out there on the ball diamond where it's understood that you're going to be plunked with some high heat.
If you research Lowry a little bit too, you'll stumble across a handful of articles too, kind of describing him as not the most well-liked guy.
Plays either, a bit out of control, they say.
Yeah.
Almost too ramped up.
He ran into a little bit of the trouble with sort of a hot temper in Toronto as well when he was there. So
it's a whole little plastic jar of raw chicken livers before he plays. He's just like,
I'd like to think so. But yeah, so pretty hard-nosed player, but
you got to have somebody like that on your team. Somebody's got to be amped, I think.
Well,
there's got to be that one guy on the team.
But the A's don't want to have to keep bailing out the same guy over and over again. It's like the buddy who you go to the bar with that always ends up getting in a fight, and you're like, I can't keep doing this.
I'm sure that's how a lot of the guys on the A's feel.
Hey, at the end of the day, you're just sticking up for your own. And if the roles were reversed, I'd be, pissed at the A's pitchers for throwing behind a Royals player who went in and spikes up, and it's just it's all about the loyalties.
Right. They play each other once more too in Oakland, so it'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think all the baseball world will be watching that one.
Yeah.
I think it's sometime next month, or I'm sorry, June. I think.
We'll move it to a nationally televised game.
Right. Yeah, that probably will be. All right. So we've got those topics, and then also one thing I want to talk about with music, the sort of never-ending Motley Crue farewell tour. And the reason I bring this up is, obviously I like Motley Crue. I've always respected what they've done, and they look like they had a lot of fun doing it back in the day. I guess I'm just surprised at how big this tour has become. It's one of the biggest tours of the last couple of years. It's become that. They've got Alice Cooper opening for them, a legend in his own right. You could probably even reverse those. And
I was going to say, like, maybe 5-6 years ago, Motley Crue would have been possibly opening for.
I don't know about that. I mean, like they've always played arenas, though. And he's kind of been more kind of like a sort of mid-sized theater as a headliner, at least.
As a headliner, maybe.
Yeah. Whereas they've always, for the most part, been an arena band. I think, at least
it's an interesting pairing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't suspect it.
Yeah, somewhat.
There's all the '80s Alice Cooper, which is like the Alice Cooper I'm not a fan of.
I don't. Like I said, I don't think he plays much of that, though. I'm sure he plays Poison, but the bulk of his set list is from the '70s.
To me, though, that's like the only link in my mind I could think between him, though, and Motley Crue is that '80s style. Like, I wonder why. Or I wonder I wonder if they're under the same management company or something.
I disagree here. I can see the link. Alice Cooper had a very glam element to some of his stuff, and Motley Crue did as well.
Yeah.
So I think just with the age that they are, they were all teenagers in the late '70s. I could see they all. Mick Mars is a little bit older, but I could see how they would all dig Alice Cooper and Kiss and the New York Dolls and all of those bands. So I don't think it's that far-fetched, really.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Mick Mars is Alice Cooper. That's why he finally wants to retire. He's like, God, I've been doing so many shows for decades. I don't know if you look at some photos, they look a little similar.
They do. Yeah, definitely. They're definitely two guys that are like definitely
Road
reason.
war.
Like if kids look at them and the kids have like low self-esteem, it's like join a band. You'll be all right. Just look at those two guys and Tom Petty. All right. Anyway, I guess I'm just surprised that the tour has been so successful. They started it last summer, billed it as the farewell tour, and then they extended it into this year, and they finally, announced their final show will be on New Year's Eve at the Staples Center in L.A. I think they're playing like 3 or 4 nights at the Staples Center.
Wow.
Yeah.
They can sell that out?
Dude.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. Like, granted, they've played arenas and amphitheaters, most of their career, at least since Theater of Pain, but just the sort of the demand that the market has been able to support a tour of this magnitude
for this long,
yeah. They're playing everywhere. They're playing like, North and South Dakota. They're hitting up the secondary and
we love you, Rhode Island.
Yes, they're playing. They're playing all the small markets too. So
I could see where a lot of those LA tickets would be comp tickets for
industry people,
all the industry people that would go out in LA at the Staples Center. Yeah.
I mean, granted, so many bands are from LA. It's where they're from, too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
Like Kanye and Kim front row at the last show.
I'm sure you'll have people there who don't like the band, who aren't familiar with Motley Crue at all. Yeah, definitely. You'll have celebrities there, I think. Anyway, so big tour there. I assume it's probably coming to all three. It's probably playing Chicago, St. Louis, and Kansas City.
It was in Kansas City last August or so.
Okay, all right. Anyway, let's and then also the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which will segue into our next topic. The induction ceremony was earlier. It was over the weekend actually, and really long ceremony, about 5 hours. And the nominees the inductees, I should say, this year.
People are just lit by the end of that, too.
I would guess. You've got Bill Withers, Ringo Starr, Joan Jett. Let me see here. Am I forgetting anyone?
I thought they just did Joan Jett.
Oh, Green Day.
Green Day, yeah.
Yeah, Green Day. And...
So they put...
I think. Oh, and Lou Reed.
Lou Reed, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's it. Okay. So those are the nominees for this year. It's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We could go on all night about it. Yeah. That's why I didn't want to bring up the whole who deserves to be in.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
subjective.
It's always been a contentious, a contentious item, the Hall of Fame itself. How do you quantify somebody? Is it all record sales? Is it influence? Blah blah blah. This year the only excuse me, Green Day. I don't know. One person's Green Day is another person's, Black Sabbath. I just don't see how many people they influenced.
For better or for worse,
influence that people that are worth a shit.
Yeah.
Where would we be without Fall Out Boy and Sum 41? Yes,
exactly.
Right, but then again, that's just me. So, you guys got any thoughts though, on the people that were nominated this year? Not necessarily a debate about whether, but just.
I was only moderately. I mean, I'm moderately interested in any of them except Lou Reed. I give a lot more credence to, but the rest of them, I'm just whatever. I'm kind of indifferent.
To
the repertoire.
Lou Reed probably deserved it. Bill Withers, I like a lot personally, and I have his records behind me. Not so sure he deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Green Day, no, obviously.
Joan Jett.
Yeah, I don't see...
She's important,
I think Runaways, yes. Joan Jett solo, no. I mean, I don't know. I guess I Love Rock and Roll probably got a lot of punk chicks to pick up a guitar. I don't know.
I think I think Green Day's induction is prudent. I think their longevity and the impact that they had, as we said, for better or for worse, and they ended up showing some range there with the rock operas like American Idiot, and I think there's a bit more to them than I will probably ever know because I don't listen.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, our opinion of them is informed by probably what we sort of think they are, and none of us listen to them, right? I mean,
I own Dookie. I have Dookie on vinyl, and that's it.
Dookie was one of my original dozen Columbia House CDs.
Well, yeah, for sure. That's the only reason I own it, too. Yeah. I own a lot of records like that.
But, I mean, they maintained their popularity after that.
They were pretty consistent.
They're a big band,
pretty consistent.
I mean, whether or not I listen to them or not, they're still popular,
Exactly.
And so I'm probably not the best person to judge their work. And then Ringo Starr. I don't really necessarily know if Ringo Starr's solo career deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
It doesn't. It was they just had to put a bow on the whole Beatles thing.
Well, I was going to say, isn't every
They're
Beatle
all
now solo?
Right.
Okay, thank God we're done. We don't have to
Pete
do
Best
that
will go in next year, I'm sure.
No.
Maybe Yoko's solo stuff. Anyway,
Julian.
That transitions to really the induction ceremony that really matters as far as I'm concerned. That's right, the heart of the order tonight. The inaugural Shoo-Ins, where each of us inducts a band or an artist that's important to us, that's made important contributions to music. Like I said, that I think really kind of embodies a lot of the qualities of this show and kind of, how we, I don't know, just how we view rock and roll. So the only criteria that we had was the artists that we induct can't be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They cannot have been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So still quite a long list of influential people. So each of us gets one artist, and that's going to be, those three are going to constitute the inaugural class. Okay. So Jonathan, I'm going to start with you, then we'll go to Levi, and then I'll close it out. Who is your nominee and why? Or you're not, I should say, I keep saying nominee, inductee, and why?
Sure. Mine is a band I didn't discover really until I was in college, and that was just because of the lead singer solo stuff that was coming out around that time. And that solo stuff was by Kevin Kinney, who released an album in the early 2000s that was produced by Warren Haynes of Government Mule. And so that kind of got me really interested into what Kenny was all about. And sure enough, he is also the lead singer of Drivin' and Cryin', a band that released its first record in 86 or so, and is still touring today, granted mostly in the South, and sometimes up on the third coast there, Chicago, Milwaukee. So, but Kevin Kinney being from Milwaukee, they always kind of make it up there. But Drivin' and Cryin' was this a rock band that was, it came out in a time where, at one point they were touring with Guns N' Roses, but kind of mistakenly so. They shouldn't. They were hard rock at times, but they weren't. They were more hippie hard rock.
Yeah. Well, they also they were the opening act on REM's Green tour.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So they had a lot of versatility there, I guess, and I think
some really good exposure too, man.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, those are all. That REM Green tour was, an arena tour.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow,
So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so, they did have some early hits and made some, and moved some units, as they say in the industry, with Fly Me Courageous, Scarred But Smarter, Whisper Tames the Lion. And that's about where it peaked, was Fly Me Courageous. Even though they did end up going on tour after that with Neil Young and Soul Asylum at different points, but
I did not know that.
But Kevin Kinney he's kind of the poet laureate of the South, in my opinion, of the rock South, I should say, and he's definitely a kind of a hippie at heart, but even like a beat poet at times, but really it's just straight up rock and roll, and
he's funny too.
He is funny. He's very, very self-effacing. I once met Kevin Kinney at, he was doing a solo tour at a local, they stopped here in town at a club, and I was sitting there. There were maybe a dozen people. The doors were open, dozen people kind of mingling around, and it was March Madness. I remember I was sitting there just watching one of the basketball games from the tournament, and there was a guy playing poker, the video strip poker. Those machines that they have on the bar,
Yeah.
And sure enough, it was Kevin Kinney, like playing video strip poker and drinking a Pabst before it was cool to drink Pabst again. And so sure enough, I went up and said hello, and he was really nice, and he asked if I wanted to hear anything that night, and I said, so I gave him a song off of his most recent record that I wanted to hear, and he's like, yeah, absolutely, man, I'll play it for you. So special connection, me and Kevin. But anyway, the driving and crying stuff, they have yet to come around Kansas City since I've been here. And but like I said, they're always playing in the South, and one of these days I'm going to make it down there to go see them, because I think they mean that much to the rock scene of the last 25 years, and that's kind of why they are my inductee, driving and crying.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
Well, fly me courageous, Gets. All right. So, Levi, what about you, man? Who do you got?
Well, I'm gonna go rogue from what we talked about earlier.
Yeah, you had somebody earlier.
I had somebody earlier in mind, and after thinking about this was going to be the inaugural class of inductees, I feel this band has been skipped over numerous times in any and all kinds of awards. And that band is the Marshall Tucker Band.
Ooh, I didn't know where you were going.
All right. All right, good.
I think
like
we all love the Marshall Tucker Band.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
the three of us do. And
We've lauded them on this podcast before.
I know.
You know?
Like, yeah, I mean, they just deserve it. You know, they were such a great band, and they were so talented, and their live shows were so great. And, you know, even after the one brother died, they were still pretty good live. That's when I saw them, was when there was only one brother. And It was like, I think I was like 12 or 13. And
they're still going. It's just Doug Gray
now
is the only original member now.
Yikes.
But yeah.
But
Yeah.
I feel they were really deserving, and I wanted them to be in the inaugural class.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, it's a great choice, and I think a lot of people don't realize how much they jammed live, too.
Oh,
Right.
I think they're the original jam band. I've said that before to people.
Yeah.
When I taught, people were telling, they were saying, oh, the Grateful Dead, they made all the new jam bands. They're like the father of all the jam bands. And I'm like, man, if you listen to some stuff from the 70s from the Marshall Tucker Band, live stuff, it sounds more like jam stuff from the 90s that, that
Right.
people were saying that sounded like Grateful Dead. So
I would assume like a lot of people in that crowd, the granola crowd, jam band crowd of today, would probably dig them if they like heard one of the shows.
Sure.
Is my guess. Yeah. So yeah, they're not recognized enough for their live performances from the 70s, which were all pretty awesome. And they had there's a guy's named Jerry Eubanks who played the flute as well.
Oh yeah, the guy was awesome.
The multi-instrumentalist. Yeah, he was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Toy Caldwell is probably one of my favorite guitarists in terms of tone. Just you can tell Toy Caldwell solo from across the room for sure.
He went pretty far in our tournament.
He did.
He did.
I remember the first time I heard This Old Cowboy, which was actually in Salisbury, Illinois. Antone played it. Antone, who frequently played there in Salisbury.
Great song, man.
And he played that, and I was like, oh, man, that just slayed me. And I had to go out and get the record.
Yeah, he does a really good covers of songs, too, so I bet that was good, man.
Yeah. Oh, This Old Cowboy is just... It's probably my top 50 favorite songs.
Yeah,
I was done 24 hours at a time.
That's a great song.
My favorite.
Shout out to Antone. My favorite cover of his was Long Tall Glasses.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, he would
Leo
bust out
Sayer?
some Leo Sayer every once in a while. I would be like, hell yes.
I can dance, I can dance. Yeah.
It was like one of the only 45s. I had like a handful of 45s as a kid, and that was one of them.
That's a good. I like the Marshall Tucker Band choice, Levi. I liked your other choice too. But
maybe next year.
Maybe next year. Yeah, good stuff, man.
So
do we think Tucker will ever make it into the Rock Hall?
I don't know. I mean, they're running out of people to nominate at this point.
Well, dude, they're going to have to go with the high-tier classic rock acts first. Like, I would say the first one would be Journey. Journey sold like 75 million records or something stupid.
Yeah, they'll get into the next couple.
So, like, I would say, like, once maybe those guys get in, that would open the door then for bands like Marshall Tucker Band, or you could maybe even say, I don't know, offshoots of stuff like Rainbow could get in possibly, or I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They could open the door.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Hopefully Yes gets in.
That's another one. Yeah, man.
Yeah. But well, for mine, this is one that we've talked about them a little bit on the show, and they're one of those bands that when I was listening to the cassette in fourth or fifth, I think it was fifth grade. I guess at the time I didn't realize how original they were, and also what, for better or worse, I think, much like, we talked about with Green Day, how many bands they would influence. The band that I'm referring to, who's my inductee, is Faith No More. Definitely, I think they kind of drew up the blueprint for the rap rock hybrid that dominated the airwaves in the late 90s, early aughts, which I wasn't into, which I'll just flat out say I don't like, but I really, really like what they did. The Real Thing, I after listening to it a few times recently, I think it's one of the best albums of the 80s.
Yeah.
Came out in 89. And I think Epic's one of the best singles of the 80s as well.
And videos.
And videos, too.
We all remember that fish flopping around.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think Mike Patton is just kind of a crazy dude. I really like him as a vocalist, and it was so original, and it's cool that it really caught on, and that was a big album for them.
Mm-hmm.
Just probably it was right at the height of MTV too. And the follow-up to it, Angel Dust, is great as well.
Mm-hmm.
Angel Dust is, to me, they're like, they make it's hard to classify their sound.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's got a funk element to it.
The term they used to use in the 70s for stuff like that was fusion.
Yeah.
They were fusion, man.
Yeah, like it's got like a rap element to it a little bit, but you got Jim Martin. He doesn't play with them anymore, unfortunately. He was a really good guitarist as well, who had killer tone.
Was the other guy's name Inez?
Yeah. No, Inez, I think you're thinking from Alice in Chains.
Right? Oh, no, yeah. Sorry.
I think.
Yes, I think you're
I know
right.
Inez is in Alice in Chains.
You're right.
Yeah, Jim Martin is the lead guitarist. And he's not with them anymore, unfortunately, because they did reunite about 4 or 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a new album coming out. I've heard the single, and it's they're still weird, I mean, that's all I can say. I haven't determined if I like it or not yet. I definitely want to go see them if they come around. I'm hoping they'll play like a smaller theater, when they headline, because I've noticed that, since they got back together, they've really just kind of stuck to like the European festivals. They've been in those big, somewhere in Sweden where they're playing to like 100,000 people as one of the headliners. So I think if they were to come to the States, they're not going to like, play arenas. My guess is they would play smaller, or they would play theaters.
Right.
So I really am excited to see them. And, they're, even before Mike Patton joined the band, they had Chuck Mosley as the lead singer. So they were, and their stuff with him is good. It not quite as the Faith No More that everybody knows when Patton joined the band, right before The Real Thing. I think he was on one record before that. So, and then the King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime is good too. So they've got like 3 great albums in a row there in the late 80s, early 90s.
They're going to be reissuing a couple of those. Yeah,
right. Yeah, cool. They're going to be putting those back out now. It's hard to believe it's been, 25 years since the Real Thing came out. And I've heard some folks say, I've heard some live reviews. The live reviews of since the band reformed are a little mixed. I think Martin is deeply missed, I think. That's what Eddie Trunk said, at least. So I trust his
I trust him,
on Faith No
judgment.
More.
Yes.
Yeah. But I also had a T-shirt of theirs that kind of like, sort of like people were. It was kind of like a shirt that like one friend had for a little while, then he'd give it to somebody else, then he'd give it to somebody else. So right around the summer of '94, we were sporting the Faith No More, I think it was '92 tour T-shirt. So beautiful shirt. Yeah, so they're my inductee. I think it's just such an original sound, and they it's just really hard to classify what they did. And if you haven't listened to the real thing in a while, put it on start to finish, and it's really, really good, and it's really, really unique. It's a unique record.
Yeah.
I don't really think there's anything else like it.
When we were younger, besides the main obvious, the epic video was huge and all over MTV. My other avenue of hearing them for the first time was Biodome.
Yeah, right.
They did "We Care a Lot," and they used it in Biodome.
Yeah, right.
And it was on that soundtrack.
Yeah.
And that was like my second viewing of Faith No More.
Good reference. Levi break it in the Weasel. All
Weasel!
right. What you been smoking, buddy? All right, so Levi's dropping Weasel references.
Hey, shout out to Paul.
And of course Stephen Baldwin with their
little
dreadlocks.
Weird.
Yeah.
Weird cornrow pigtail things all over his head.
Yes, definitely. Also, Faith No More was the opening act on that Juggernaut tour, 91, 92. I think it was summer of '92, where it was Guns N' Roses and Metallica, double bill.
Faith No More.
Faith No More played first. They played stadiums. That was a stadium tour. So yeah, they were the openers on that. So good stuff there.
Yeah, good inductees.
I like it, man. So we've got Driving and Crying, Marshall Tucker Band, and Faith No More as the inaugural inductees, the Shoo-Ins. I like it.
They may never see the actual Hall of Fame, but this is certainly the best consolation prize.
So Mike Patton, if you're listening, I got your back, buddy.
All the people that didn't win, maybe next year you're all going home with the at-home version of the game.
Yes, right. I'll try to if we can. Maybe since he's not touring with them, I can. We should try to get Jim Martin on the show. So give him a.
If he's out there, if he's listening.
If he's out there, yes.
Yeah. Well, hey, yeah. Anybody, Doug Gray,
him a custom baseball card or something.
I'll go ahead. I'll give it a shot. I'll just email Jim at faithnomore.com and see if he's still got it hooked up. Maybe.
Oh, but anyway. So good stuff. We'll post some clips of those bands and if you haven't listened to any of those bands in a while, please do, because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised how good and enduring their sound is. Oh, yeah. So that takes us to the Bullpen Session, where we didn't get to do one of these last time just because we had so much to fit in with the closing of the guitar tournament. We've got recommendations here where we recommend something that maybe you haven't heard. So we'll go ahead and start with these. Since I went last, the last go-around, the heart of the order, I'll go first this time. And then, Levi, you can close it out then. Okay. The band that, this is a holdover for me since we didn't get to them last time. The band that I've really been digging, it's probably my favorite record of this year so far, is this band called the Blank Tapes. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them.
No.
They are, I just kind of discovered them on RDO. I don't know how. I just kind of one click led to another, the related artists to something like that. So I kind of stumbled upon them. I wasn't looking for them. And they are a psych rock, very psychedelic. Like, they wear it on their sleeves. Like, they're like perpetually high. All right, this band. And it's 3 dudes and 1 female comprise the band. They're from San Francisco area. The album that turned me on is their most recent one, and I've listened to their other stuff. It's good as well, but I think the most recent one is their best production values, and it's a really trippy record. It's called, gosh, I hope I say this right, Geodesic Dome Piece. I know how to say dome piece. Geodesic, I'm not sure if
that's right.
I said that right. Okay, all right. Geodesic Dome Piece is the record that came out earlier this year. It's on, the label is called Royal Okie, and it's really great. Really just a psychedelic sound. It's got kind of a 60s vibe to it, you know, sort of at times it kind of reminds me of like the Zombies and stuff like that. But it's also a guy that, an artist that, I don't know if he's an influence on them, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was, is a guy by the name of Devendra Banhart, who I think you guys have probably heard before. Yeah. I hear some of that as well.
Like Edward Sharpe at all?
Yeah, it's got a little bit of that too. That's a good good reference to bring up as well. I would say that they would be comfortable opening for Edward Sharpe.
What was it called again? Geodesic
the Blank
Dome
Tapes.
And Geodesic Dome Piece? Okay.
Yes, Geodesic Dome Piece, the Blank Tapes. I'll try to post some stuff on
I think that's actually
Facebook
the name for a
page
biodome. A biodome is a geodesic dome.
Wow.
You just did a biodome reference and didn't even know it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, check it out, guys, because it's really good stuff. They've got a few this looks like it's like they're probably like their third LP or so, third or fourth LP.
Cool.
You know, they put out a lot of material. There's a lot of EPs. So I think they're kind of just sort of a DIY kind of band, like a lot of younger bands are today. So there's I don't think they've been together that long, but they've put out a lot of music. So
cool.
Check them out. Geodesic Dome Piece is the album, and then the band is called the Blank Tapes.
Cool.
All right. Jonathan, what about you?
I will go with, there's a lot of good stuff that's been coming out, but one that I did the scroll and random click on audio new releases was Bop English.
Okay.
Bop English, name of the album is called Constant Bop. And the guy, and I forget his name, I've only known the band for about a week and a half now, but the guy used to be, or is in a band out of Austin called White Denim. Yeah, they're good. I wasn't familiar with White Denim until I found this side project, and White Denim is interesting. They're like a Thin Lizzy meets ZZ Top sound, and it's pretty interesting. But Bop English it's a bit funkier, but the guitar riffs are pretty awesome. The guitar runs and just the bouncy rhythms and song structures are pretty undeniable. And he's been getting pretty favorable reviews. Unfortunately, he was supposed to stop in Kansas City here in a couple weeks, but he scrapped a lot of his tour to go over to Europe. So I don't know if he's got something bigger brewing. But if so, he deserves it, because Bop English is probably going to end up being one of my favorite records of the year. It's just, I listened to it one day, and then the next day I was like, oh, I'll go ahead and give it another listen. And then I just found myself, I kept going back to it every day for the last 10 days. I think I've listened to it twice on Sunday. So Bop English Bop. Cool. Constant Bop.
Constant Bop. All right. Nice. It's a lot of bopping.
It is.
Makes me.
And Louis Armstrong is nowhere.
Do they cover Bop by country artist Dan Seals? I know Levi knows that one.
Yes. All night. I want to bop with you.
That's right. All right, Levi, what's your recommendation for our listeners?
I'm going to do a quickie. Last Saturday was Record Store Day.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if anybody knows about that on the listening audience, but it was kind of a holiday in all the record stores. And I got a few releases. I'm going to show you 3 real quick that I picked up that are really cool that I've been jamming lately.
Did you battle any lines?
I am employed at a record store, so no, I did not battle any lines.
Went the back way.
My stuff was waiting for me in a bag with my name on it.
At 12:01 a.m.
there are perks to working at a record store. So
you know, like that part in Goodfellas where Ray Liotta takes Lorraine Bracco like through the kitchen and all that.
Yeah.
That's Levi on record store day. Yeah.
Hey,
Sweet. Sweet.
Work at a record store if you want that kind of service. Open a record store, work at one. You can get this stuff. First one, Jaco Pastorius, Warner Brothers Anthology.
Nice.
Ooh.
Nice.
Yeah, it's excellent.
There's a documentary out about him now.
Yeah, and it
Is
was
there?
by Rob Trujillo from
No
Metallica.
kidding.
Yep.
and Suicidal Tendencies. Yeah,
Yep.
he owns his bass. He
Wow.
owns Jaco's bass. He said if the family ever wanted it back, he'd give it back to him, but they'd have to pay like whatever he paid at auction for
Sure.
it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, the second one was so weird that when I saw it on the list to pre-order, I was like, man, I just have to have that. It's called The Rough Guide to Psychedelic Salsa Music.
Ah, nice.
And it is, dude, it is out there, and it's awesome, and it's like psychedelic, all Latin percussion 60s bands.
Sweet. And it's a bunch of different bands?
Yeah, tons of different bands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different artists, it looks like.
You know, those rough guides are good portals to, like, if you find one that you really like, to get into that band that otherwise you never would have heard.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because they can do their homework on those rough guides.
I have a few more things, but this one I wanted to be the last one on tonight I'll mention. This was really cool, and I had liked this artist, and this record has made me like him even more. And it's John Prine, live, 1978, at the Park West
it's a great
Theater.
album cover, too.
Live at the Park West, 1978. And
Nice.
it's got just a really cool selection of songs kind of spanning his career up to that point. And he's with a full band, and there's an organ player, so a couple of the tunes kind of sound, I don't know if I'd say necessarily funky, I guess, but like you don't hear a lot of Hammond organ in John Prine albums, so it's
much
cool.
bigger sound than
It's cool to hear these songs with that bigger sound, and it's a great album cover. It's a great shot of John Prine. So that's what I've been jamming on lately.
Nice.
Hell of a songwriter. Good stuff all around, guys.
Yeah.
So excellent. Well, everybody, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at RockinChew. That's rock, and then in is in Nazareth. Chew.
From every show from now on, I want you to come up with a different band that starts with N.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I can do that. So Nazareth is the first. And then also you can like us on Facebook, and then also visit our website. You can find the whole archives of all the episodes, 25 of them now that we've got, on rockchew.com.
And also my recommendation for tonight is a blog post on our website that a regular post called Fresh Lumber that discusses new music.
Cool.
So you find that and a lot of other recommendations on there.
Very cool.
Good deal. Well, congrats to the inaugural class, Driving and Crying, Faith No More, and the Marshall Tucker Band.
Don't drink too much tonight, guys.
Right. We'll post some stuff from them as well. I'm gonna stay up and listen to all three of them. That's just all there is to it.
Just do it.
So, anyway, that said, we'll see you next time. Again, don't forget rockchew.com and at rockinchew. And we'll see you as we head into spring. Take care, everybody.
Peace.